But the one, not the but. So the one things I also wanted to address about that is I wanted to make sure that in their as they got into their adolescent, the teenage, their early teenage years, is that I set a foundation for now another level of trust. I wanted them to be able to come and talk.
Yeah.
When something's bothering you, and even if it's wrong, you don't have to be fearful that dad's going to just jump out the window. Let's talk about it.
I think that's good because, I mean, when we look at, and yes, we're going to kind of dive into, when we look at African American males and the absenteeism in dads and, not having the father figure. That's why most of us were kind of dysfunctional ourselves, before becoming parents. Just the love and the care that I hear to have those conversations, it's important. It's so important.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love that even though that you had that void in your life, it was something that you did not want for your children, right?
Yeah.
You didn't want, neither one of us really, but we didn't want that for our sons.
Yeah. Well, since you said that, let's dig back and let's dig back and bring it forward. I knew my father. I knew of him. I've seen his face when I was younger. Didn't spend a whole lot of time with him, so I don't know him. I didn't know him. He's not alive anymore. I didn't know him to the degree where I wanted our children to know me. So trying to give our boys something that I didn't have. I'm a product of two boys. Like I have two boys, and it was two of us, my brother and I. And so I always wanted to make sure that our sons had in me what we didn't have in my father. And so that's still my biggest thing, is to be what he couldn't be to us. I want to always be to them. And so being a part of their journey when they were infants, walking them around was not just a proper thing, but having them in the stroller, having one in the harness on my chest. I wanted to let them know and let the world know that I was set to be a father, that I will always be a father. I will always be present in our children's life. I wasn't concerned about giving them presents. I was always concerned about being present. I tell them that, and I've always told you that I want to always be present for them, with them. If wherever they go, I tell them wherever they go, they take me with them. Sports, school, I go with them. And so I couldn't say that about mine. Mine never showed up to the school. Mine never showed up to a game, to anything. And so as they moved into the teenage year, as our sons moved into their early teenage years, I started seeing him a little. I started seeing my father a little more from that 9 to maybe 10 years old, where he will come around only on birthdays and give you, however old you were. If you were nine, he would give you $9. And then I wouldn't see him again for maybe a couple of more birthdays. I wouldn't see him again for a couple of more birthdays. Yeah. And he lived maybe a mile away. And that was the weirdest thing. I never understood that growing up. And I always made sure that when I told God, when I had children, I will never be that to my kids. Now I hear somebody out there saying, well, were you driven by the fear of being like your father? No. I wasn't motivated by fear, thinking that that spirit would jump on me. No, because here's the thing. When I had children, my father and my mother was married when they had kids. So when I had our sons, we were married.
Right.
We were in a marriage relationship, a healthy marriage relationship. I wanted to be a father.
Yeah, I know that for a fact.
That wasn't something that happened. And most guys, that happened. I don't know how that happened when you actively participate in something that could potentially lead to children. I don't know how the thing happens. But I wanted to be a father, and I wanted to be an active father. Most guys have kids or they don't have kids, when they have women have the babies or kids, and they have now their dads.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be the dad. I can't speak for my father because I wasn't there. I didn't talk to him about it. I don't know his mindset about it, but I wanted to be what he wasn't to us.
Right.
And so coming into our teenage years, I wanted to be even more so after the childhood and the talking to him about the discipline. Now they're in the teenage year where now life is going to move fast.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we talked about, that, okay, when they got into middle school, we were like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
It's going to be over before we know it. They're going to be graduating high school, and those years are going to. And so from 6th to the 12th grade could be a blur if you allow it. But what we did was, what I did was every step I tried to stay with them and be there with them. They had gotten away from sports at that time.
By what, high school? Yeah, middle.
By sixth grade.
Yeah,
sixth grade, they were done.
For sure.
By sixth grade, they were done.
Yeah.
No more sports.
Yeah.
One tried to play soccer his first year of high school. That was over and done with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I tried to stay with them. Every event that happened at school, I would try to get there, be there, and be around, and make sure they always saw me, because it was important that they remember not just their childhood being around, that they remember me even now being around. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing with a lot of us, and as parents, we have to make sure that when we say we're going to do something, we do it.
Yeah. And even when they're growing up, like I remember at one time with our oldest, he was in 10th grade, and he was having some, challenges in school and just some things that were going on
Mm-hmm.
at the time in our home. And I remember reaching out to the guidance counselor and just kind of talking to them. And she was like, don't take your hand off the wheel now. Mm-hmm. She said a lot of parents, when they get because you think, oh, they're teenage, they're still teenage, they're still developing.
Yeah, you put them on cruise control.
Yeah, and you put them on this cruise control, and it's like, what are you doing? And so it's like, you cannot do that to your child. And it was very telling to me when she said this, because it's like, wow, don't take your hand off the wheel, parents. And I mean, I just kind of want to encourage you with that, but it kind of even hit, I was so grateful that we had not done that with him.
Yeah, no, it was, that's why I said it was more important then, more so than ever, that I stayed around, because now as they're in that teenage years, they've always, but even more so now, where they're becoming more independent than ever. Mm-hmm. And they're developing who they are or what they think they want to be, and what the world is telling them that they're supposed to be. And so my biggest thing was, I have to counteract what the world is telling our young men, because I refuse to allow the world to shape who my young men were going to be, what to accept, what not to accept. And they were in schools that, all these schools now, you got to be careful. And even more so, this is a word to you parents, that even more so as they become teenagers, don't allow these schools to be so progressive in your children's mind, where they tell you they're programming your kids to be something that they are not.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I had to remind them. Listen, and I always used to tell them, nothing or nobody's voice outside of this house should be greater than the voice in this house. Mm-hmm. Don't ever let anybody tell you to go against what we say.
Agreed.
Because what we're telling you or helping to instruct you to do is to help you, to safeguard you, to protect you. And the one thing that is protecting you is from yourself. See, because a lot of parents don't teach their children to protect them from themselves. Because with freedom comes a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And as they get older, they get more freedom. Even from us as parents, we give them a little more latitude to do a little more things. And the cautionary tale in that is, if you allow your children to go too far without the proper correction, you cannot pull them back.
I remember you telling me, and I know people gonna be like, "What?" But you told me as the mom to our sons to take my.
Oh, are they mom?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like, "What?"
And she was mad for a couple of days
I was
about it, maybe a
upset,
week,
yeah.
maybe 2 weeks,
The
maybe a
breast,
month.
the breast, take the breast out of their mouths, and I really was, I was upset.
Yeah, you were. You were hot as fish grease.
Yeah, pop. But I now understand. Well, I got it, but
well, at the time you didn't, because you
No,
took
I
it
didn't.
personal.
I did. I took it personal.
But it wasn't a personal thing. Yeah, it wasn't personal.
Right.
It was just to remind them that you're not going to always be there to protect them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at this stage of their life, you can't feed them to that degree. You got to let them. When you taught them as that early, infant, that early child, that middle childhood stage, we taught them how to feed themselves.
Yeah.
And then as teenagers, they get to eat what they want. They're learning to prepare their own food. And so certain things you had to let go. Yeah. And so me telling you that was telling you, okay, let these guys make their own decision. Nothing too egregious, but give them this to make their own decision. And let's now support and help. Now, if it's the wrong decision, let's help course correct.
Yeah.
Let's help. Great. Okay, don't do that again. What did you learn from that? And as teenagers, we have to give them things, give them enough rope. I'm not rope, but enough room where, okay, you did that. Okay, what did you learn from that? And put them, and I always challenge them. What did you learn from that? Okay, you learn, let's not do that again. This is what you should have done. This is what you should do. This is how you avoid doing and staying away from that. And my biggest thing as teenagers, I always told them, I gave them the signs about things, who to stay away from, the things to stay away from, what not to get into. It was not always about the fear of it, it's the repercussions that come along.
And I think we need to be, as parents, you really don't shelter your kids from things. You cannot shelter them to the degree where you're not being realistic with them.
You're not being honest.
Right. You're not being honest, realistic. Yes. You're not doing that, because they're going to encounter things, and it's our job. If you love them, it's our job. When you love someone, it's our job to protect them in regards to telling them the truth.
You teach them about life.
Right.
You don't teach them the fairy tale of life. You teach them that these things happen because here's the thing. And I was always honest with them, and I'm always going to be honest with them. Choices happen in life. You're going to either reap the benefits of a choice, or you're going to reap the consequences of a choice.
Right.
None of us get to avoid choices of consequences. Yeah. Good, bad, or indifferent. They're ours to have. Yeah. Because it's life that we are in. And so I always used to tell her and telling them that, hey, listen, you can go out there and do whatever. There's consequences to it. You don't get to see, and I always used to tell them that you don't get to punch somebody in the face and then tell them when they're ready to hit you back how hard they can hit you. You understand? If you go out there, you punch somebody in the face, you have to now be prepared to finish the fight. You can't tell them, okay, now that I hit you in your face, you can only hit me this hard. No. That doesn't work in life. So teaching them about, in that teenage years, teaching them about being good young men. I was a stickler. What else you got? Because
just go into
the young adults.
Young adults.
That they're
young
now?
Adult. Yeah, because they're not quite in manhood. When is manhood? Is that already?
Yeah, after 18, they're considered, man, they can go in the military.
Yeah, but okay, now.
You talking about
Okay.
21? 21, you're a full-grown adult.
Okay, yeah. So we do have one
That's a full-grown adult.
full-grown adult, and then we have one
by legal standards.
Right, and then we have one that
because you ain't a full-grown adult if I'm still paying your bills.
Touche. Parents, take note. Please, please stop it. Okay, so and then we have one who's
he's a tweener.
Yeah, he a twinadult,
he'll be 20.
A teen adult.
He tweener.
Tweener. So our tweener, yeah. So it's a couple things I want to kind of wrap us up here. But what is the best thing you moms can do to support in raising their sons? What are some things that moms could do?
Stop cheating. Stop. Here's one thing I would try to help y'all out with. And she knows, she laughed because she's past grade. Come on. Here's one thing I would help y'all with. I would ask you guys to stop treating your sons like they're your husbands.
I don't get that.
He can't be your husband's son.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's the man in the house, but he's not the man of the house. He still is your son. There's a certain level of that you have to have a separation between your son and your man.
Well, he's not your man.
No, but people.
But I hear you. It's just weird.
I've seen it.
I agree.
I've seen people
it's
do
weird.
it, and I've seen people because see, here's the thing. When I say your man, when you become your man, now you stop parentally. You stop the parental guidance of him. He's your son, you should always maintain the position that he's not my equal. He's my son. There should always be a separation between me and my son. What do you mean, Virgil? I mean that you should never lose the fact that if I'm telling him something, he won't respond and respectfully to be disciplined.
That's good.
I'm a grown man, and I never call my mom about her first name.
Yeah, but you do see.
Unless I'm playing with her.
You see that a lot, though.
Yeah, because now
and they talking to this. I mean, sons talking to their moms like, well, first of all, yeah, and you can't be talking to me like I'm your wife because, first of all, I'm not going to let my husband talk to me like that. But that's neither here nor there because some people, I don't know where that comes in, but yeah, it's a very weird dynamic. I wonder why that is. I don't know.
Because they're taught that people always think you have to be friends with your children. Listen, I love my kids. I love our sons. I'm not their friend. I'm their dad.
I think that's where
I keep it respectful, but whenever I need to have foot and hind part conversations, I'm gonna have foot and hind part conversations. You don't have to like what I say. You will respect what I said. You can talk about me under your breath out of my presence. And I'm okay with that. Because they do it anyway. But while you're in my presence, there will be a yes, sir, no, sir. I hear you. Yes, no. It won't be Stop letting your children talk to you in abbreviated conversations. It should always be respectful. Yes, ma'am. It don't have to be the yes, ma'am, but it can be yes, no.
Yeah.
And these are things you set these structures in place early because once they get to 21 and you get this over with
12, 15 sometimes, and unfortunately this is what we've seen one from one perspective, and then two it's just disrespectful. I know there have been conversations that my sons have had with me, one in particular, won't say a name, but I'm like, your tone is very disrespectful to me. Like that is never going to be okay for you to think that you could talk to me like that. And we have a great relationship, but at some point it's like, whoa. You crossed this line. And I think even as they get into their adulthood, I'm not going to cross, especially when they become men, but well, Jay,
But
he's a
everyone
man,
knows.
but
Everyone
yeah,
knows in this house or in
yeah,
our house, and people who on the outside looking, they know
yeah,
that everyone in here speaks their mind,
yes,
but they speak their mind respectfully. That's
yeah,
the one thing that we have and we established from day one as they started to talk. You can say, voice your opinion, speak your mind, but you have to do it respectfully, or there's consequences to it.
right. And
If
sometimes you need to think
if you
before you.
forget what we do, I always give them the parameters. If you think about something or something is in your head to get out and through your mouth, think about it first. Think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, because if it comes out incorrect, then now you have to accept everything that's about to happen. And so everybody's saying, well, that's fear. It's a healthy, you can say it's fear, it's a healthy fear. Because on your job, you don't get to talk to your boss any kind of way.
Right.
We're not your bosses, but we deserve greater honor as parents than any supervisor, any person who pays you a check. No. And we've always taught them to honor your mother and your father, that your days may be long upon the earth. Mm-hmm. And that's what we lived by. Mm-hmm. My mother, she's still alive. She had a mom. Her mom has passed on. My dad has passed on. But we honor them even until their transition. Yeah. And so we teach them that. Mm-hmm. Even as adults, young adults, it's important that you honor authority. You honor people who are in authoritative positions. You don't be disrespectful. Anyone who knows our boys know that our children are not going to be combative. Yeah. They understand. The most important thing is if we're out there and it's out there to make sure.
You were saying to make sure that they make it home.
Yeah, not be combative.
Yeah.
Not be combative.
Well, I'll have one more as we wrap up this. So, can you just say a parent? I don't know. So is all hope lost? I guess that's my question in regards to
no.
If you're not, because some people are going to come back and listen to this and they're going to be in different area, you're in a different time in your life or whatever, or how can you, I know we did say at some point, sometimes it is very hard to course correct, but if you're at that stage of your child is 7, 8 and yeah.
Well, I'll wrap it all up. Let me close with this. I'll wrap it all up with this, and then hopefully this helps you.
Okay.
Or this gets you. My thing, no matter what you've done throughout your young man's life, from infant to young child to young teenager to full out teenager to young adult to now they're in their manhood stage where they're full grown men with children, and it still seems like there's a bit of a strain there. Here's what I would offer, and I would suggest. Like I said, it's never too late to apologize for what your inadequacies were as a parent. Where you were deficient, where you didn't know how to be what they needed you to be at the time. It's never too. Sometimes what life helps us grow, sometimes what life just gives us more days. So when you come to a point where you now there's knowledge about what happened, and now you're able to articulate, that's when you're able to, hopefully you're able to sit your young men down or your sons down and say, listen, I made a mistake during this time. I blew it. I shouldn't have allowed whatever allowed. I did this, I did that. And now you make amends, and all you can do is go from that point. The story about my dad is when there was years where there was a void. We got reacquainted when we had our first son, and that was maybe some almost 15, almost 20 years later. And he and I reconnected, and I could have helped. And well, let me bring it full circle. I lost a brother.
Right.
He passed away. Some of y'all say unalive now. He's no longer living.
Are you serious?
Okay. And so he died. He died hating our father. That's not breaking news. So I'm not telling no one. That was he made that very clear. He didn't like him, hated him, couldn't stand him. Don't know if he found peace with it. I don't know. But the last that I know that he didn't like him. And so I refused, after I heard that, I refused to die with that. So everything that I did, I wanted to reestablish a connection and relationship with him. Not for him, but for me.
That was good.
And so your relationship that you need to have with your young men is not always for them, but it's for you. They need to see a level of compassion in you. He didn't come to me. I went to him to make peace, to figure out where it is. Okay, let's start anew. Let's start from here. We can't do nothing about the past. Let's start here. And why did I do that? It's because we can't change my childhood, but we can set your grandchildren's childhood in you, that they know that granddad was going to do what granddad say he going to do. And so I would admonish all you granddads, grandmas, moms, that listen, if you disconnected from your young men, connect. Yeah. Nothing, I mean, absolutely nothing is that egregious where you guys can't make amends. I know certain things happen. I know, God forbid, life may have something crazy may have happened. If God can forgive us, surely we have enough in us to forgive one another. I never said forget what happened. I said forgive. And forgiveness is as long as forgiveness is always a bridge, then repair can always be done in relationships, as long as we're willing to forgive. Love your young men. Know and remind them that they are the women, our moms. Y'all do an outstanding job, but every young man needs his dad, his father in his life. Yeah, long for it. Every young little girl longs for the love of her father. And nothing is more than I used to look over, and our oldest son will look when he did a play on him, and this helps me even as he's an adult, as they are adults. When he was a young kid playing sports, he will always look over for my approval. Yeah. And as men, even young or old, we're always looking for the approval of our dad. We look for the approval in the women we choose. We look for approval in the jobs we take. And so I would always tell you, and so I leave y'all with this. They're always, don't let the tough talk don't let, and then the sadness that we're seeing in the streets with these young, that is a sign that they need their fathers in their lives. They need someone to come in and father them and let them know, listen, you can do better. And I'll cheer you on when you're doing better. And so listen, I loved it when talking to him now, that he always needed my approval, and I would give him a thumbs up, and you can see his face light up, and he'll go out and he'll do even better. When we know somebody's with us, we fight harder to please them.
Yeah. And shout out to all the stepdads, those men who just stepped up to be uncles, dads, or father figures in children's lives. Shout out to each and every one of you. Yeah,
I had uncles who stepped up and showed me what marriage looked like. They still with their wives. So listen, you may not know the impact that you're having on these young men or these men's life. When you're a part and you're active in their lives, and you just show up, say, hey man, you're doing awesome. Stay with it. And on one last note, we both work in the school system, and I work in a I work around a young adult GED program, and it's this young man, not a kid, young man who comes in, and he's been coming in almost the last 2 years trying to finish out his tattoos on his eye, and some of y'all would say he thugging out, and I would smell him, I would see him coming in
and
smelling like the weed. And the one day God told me I walked over to him and I told him, man, I'm proud of you. You're staying with it. He looked back at me with the toughest look. He said, you proud of me? The little kid in him came out. You're proud of me? I said, yeah, man, I've been watching you. I'm watching how you stand strong and how you're finishing. I said, how long you got left? He said, maybe 2 months. He said, man, I thank you. Thank you for noticing. I appreciate that. I said, no, you stick with it. And you can see the toughness. He melted. I'm telling you, all these young men need to know is somebody's paying attention, and we're cheering them on. Y'all about to make me preach. I'm out of here. Come on, you close out I'm on your program. You close out.
Well, thank you all for this tuning in for this episode of Little Learners on the Go. And we just we hope there's something, we know there's something was said that is going to help you continue to raise your sons.
Love up on them.